This is going to be going over partners, mostly the 3-star partners. They'll also talk about them in relation to the 4-star partners and their classes. Some of the 3-star partners are honestly pretty good, especially if you're lacking the better options, so you don't want to just completely skip out on these. So a lot of the 3-stars, they have really good passive effects. Some of their ego skills aren't as good, but let's just get into it. First things first, the main thing to consider is that for the 4-star partners, you can buy a lot of them in the shop from the Zeronium shop. There's Ritochka, Rachel, Wilhelmina, Eloise, Akkad, Rosaria, and Alyssa. So there's 7 of them here, and there's 3 of them missing. The 3 that are missing is Arwen, Lillian, and Charity, and you can see I'm missing 2 of them. So, especially in this case, you might find yourself wanting some substitutes, potentially. Let's start off just left to right. Let's look at Nakia. Nakia, a lot of the partners have this. It's just a stat. It's 8% at base, and they don't show it here, but it's 16% at max. I think I actually have a couple of people. I think I have mine on my barrel. It's 16% at max, so we can just look at it here. And then backline support, you get 20% damage of an attack card when an ally defeats an enemy, and then when you activate it, it gets reduced by 1. So the backline support is kind of whatever, just because you're not going to like proc it a bunch, though 20% damage is nice. You're only going to get to use it like a couple of times per fight, maybe like once depending on what you're fighting, potentially 0. The 16% attack is the nice part. This is just a straight up like 16% attack boost. It's a pretty significant damage boost, especially for Beryl. If you're not running the retain build and you're just doing like the standard build with her just shooting people, then the extra attack doesn't really benefit her at all, because the 4-star partners all give you extra attack. Like this is extra attack bonus, this is or additional attack bonus, additional attack bonus, additional attack bonus. So in that case, this is really the only partner that gives you any sort of damage boost from its extra or from its passive effect. So I think Nakia is just a really nice generic DPS for Rangers. Though a lot of Rangers have extra attacks, like Hugo and Veronica wouldn't really want this. It's just only potentially for Beryl. The ego skill is not the worst, honestly. 2 EP for 200% damage. Sometimes you just snipe something off and finish something off, save yourself from taking a bit of damage. And then we can go back to the thing here. Next up is Zatera. Zatera, I'm not too big of a fan of. It's 16% attack, but this ego skill is just really bad. It's because you have to put this on a psionic, and it's Tressa. You're not going to get like any value out of this, honestly. Especially because you can just get Eloise from the shop. And Eloise, she works with Tressa, she works with Kairon. It's 10% attack card damage even at level 1. 3 stars, you assume they're level 5, because you just get them pretty much for free. So it'll be 16% attack versus the 10% attack card damage, and then after you exhaust a card or gain a status ailment card, you get 12% attack damage. This weekend honestly ends up being pretty nice. Sometimes there's turns where you get a lot of Shadow Daggers off, and you can just exhaust a bunch and apply like, quite a few weekend onto the enemy. So I kind of just prefer this over, what's his name, Zatera. Especially because the ego skill is so bad. There's also Raidel, who is not the worst, but the problem is that both of the Vanguard partners are both available in the shop. Raidel specifically is only going to be used on Maribel or Magna, but the problem is that the stat that he gives is HP, which is kind of useless. You'd much rather have this be defense. I mean, bulk is bulk, but defense actually contributes to damage. Instead, you get the damage from the counterattack thing here. 8% counterattack increase, it'll go up to 16. And then you don't actually get any damage boost. The damage boost for Vanguards on counterattacks is going to be on Erica instead. But going somebody like, where's the burger girl? Rachel. You get shield gain instead from this. An extra chance for counterattack, and you can use her ego skill to draw more. I think this is just generally better, plus you can buy it in the shop. And then there is Douglas. I think Douglas is really nice. 16% attack. This extra part is kind of whatever. It's only for one turn, but your first turn could potentially be really high damage depending on your setup. 2 EP for a quick little AoE is the Ego skill. Nothing too special, but not the worst. The main thing is that for strikers, Ratochka is free. Or not free, but buyable in the Zeronium shop, but she only really works with high cost units. So something like Haru uses Ratochka super well, but if you're trying to run like Mei Lin, and you're like me and you're Lillian-less, Lillian's really good for Mei Lin, then we can't really use Ratochka, in which case we kind of have to use Douglas, but even then it's not like a super bad thing. Your turn 1 damage could be super high, depending on your setup. I've seen somebody one turn the big crab with at 9x stacks, which I don't think he's using Douglas, but like you can get pretty decent damage off your first turn, and even just like a straight up 16% attack increase is going to be really nice. So I think Douglas is the other 3-star partner that is pretty good, especially given the context that Lillian isn't available for purchase, sadly. And then Yuri, who is for hunters, 16% attack, and then on the first shuffle you get 16% damage stealth increase. Her Ego skill is actually probably the best one out of all the partners. 2 draw for 3 EP. Draw is just super nice to have. Comparing her to the other hunter ones, Charity isn't free, of course. The one that's purchasable from the Zeronium shop is a COD. A COD increases the damage of your bullet cards by 10%, and then when you land your first crit, you get more bullet card damage. This one's made for Luke, pretty much. And then for one turn, you get 25% crit chance on your combatant's attack cards. This is pretty much the Luke one, I would say, yeah. And then Charity is for Renoa. Even if you're doing like the Nia shuffle thing, because this one gives you, on the first shuffle, you get 16% more damage boost. If you just use Charity's Ego skill, you get 20%, which is just going to be better. Even if you're doing the Nia thing where you shuffle your entire deck. So, this is, like, I feel like Yuri has a really nice Ego skill. Definitely a potential, like, thing you could use, especially if you don't have Charity or a COD. I honestly have not really played Hunters that much, because the Hunters are like Renoa, Luke, and then it's just Lucas, none of who I really have any interest in. Even Lucas, like, he's another character that just generates a bunch of bullet cards, so you're going to be going a COD on him, who is, again, free, or purchasable, rather, in the Zeronium shop. So I feel like Yuri has a really nice Ego skill, but it's a bit hard to fit her in. Definitely a potential option, though, if you really like draw that much, I guess. And then there's Yvonne, who I'm not really a big fan of. 16% defense, and then I think this probably scales up to 60. I actually want to check just to make sure. I'm just gonna pick a random person and go to their partners. It should scale up to 60%. Yeah, so 16% defense and 60% healing at the start of the next turn. Not using an attack card's not too hard. It depends on who you're using this on, really. Like, Mika, no problem. Somebody like Ray is probably going to be attacking a decent amount, so you're not really going to be using Yvonne much on Ray. This would really just be for Mika. And then, or like the other controllers, like Cassius is also going to be attacking a decent amount. Somebody like Nia, I think, is, you could definitely like use it on Nia too, but in general, I feel like you're not really going to be using Yvonne that much. I personally prefer Alyssa. It's a bit less defense at level 1, and you don't get the extra healing, but more often than not I find myself just using the morale, because I like just having more offense. But if you need like more healing, especially on your non-Mika side in Basement or something, and you find yourself really needing more healing, then you could run this. It's a bit more defense, level 5 for the 3-star compared to level 1 for the 4-star. And you also get the extra healing at the end of each turn. I also personally prefer just Arwen, though she is one of the ones that's not purchasable in the shop. Arwen is just really nice. She gives you damage reduction, bigger heal on the Eco skill, and you get extra HP plus healing. So the healing like kind of gets balanced out somewhat by the defense thing. But then the Pump Book of Cheer, I think, is just really, really nice, to be honest. So that's it for all of the 3-star partners. Some of these are pretty good. Like, even if you min-roll your 4 stars, or... I feel like eventually we're just going to have a ton of 4 stars, so it's not like a huge deal that we can't... Or like, even if you put them all together, 3 stars... If you run out of 4 stars, or if you just don't have stuff like Lillian, there's a couple of them that I think are pretty decent to use.